for Film in Minnesota here. I'm your host, Alan Tracy.
I'm Rahana Power.
And today we have Kobe Markworth with us. Hello, Kobe.
Hello, Alan. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Awesome. We're excited to have you. We have a lot to dive into with you. There's a lot to talk about, but first we got to go with our icebreaker here, get to know you a little bit better. So Kobe, can you tell us something fun, interesting, unique about yourself?
Well, when I have the time and money, I do some cosplay. Despite the fact that I am not very good at like I don't even know how to sew, like as far as the clothes go. But especially as a kid, I love making like props, and like I was the kid who was like spray painting designs on their Nerf guns, making like armor out of foam. And the thing I grabbed is one of my more recent projects was I hollowed out a toy chainsaw and made a little armhole.
Wow.
Evil Dead Army of Darkness.
I know what you're up to. Yeah.
Chainsaw hand. And so there used to be, where the armhole is, there used to be a handle. And that had a button that made the blade spin, but I took the wires and I put it on the inside.
Okay.
So I can do that from the inside.
That's so cool.
That's really neat.
You're going to be Ash? Are you going to do the Ash costume?
Yeah, I mean, I've already done it. I have a shirt that like has the arm ripped off and like holes throughout all of it, and I made like the shotgun harness out of like I bought like 10 belts from Goodwill, and I chopped them all up and hooked them together, and did my poor impression of what sewing is, to loop it around like these metal the metal rings that hold shower curtains. I put some of those to make like the rings so the harness goes all the way around, and then I just like bought like a toy shotgun to fit in the harness.
Wow.
So I have the costume ready to go if anyone needs an Evil Dead fan film.
Love it. So you mentioned you've kind of been doing that for a bit. Is there like a favorite that you've done before?
Evil Dead is definitely up there. I think the one I've actually like worn to like a convention was I did a Red Hood cosplay, because at the time I think DC Rebirth was just happening. So he had this new design with like a sleeveless hoodie and this mask with like the red eyes. I worn that to C2E2 like a week before the pandemic happened. I got in the right time. I drove myself down to Chicago and I met like Miles Luna from Rooster Teeth. I met Doug Walker, who does the Nostalgia Critic. I couldn't afford to meet some Star Trek people, but I took a selfie and they're like way in the back.
Nice. That's awesome.
I really wanted to meet George Takei because he did a very good graphic novel called We Were the Enemy or something. And just talking about his childhood growing up in a Japanese internment camp. And talking about his family story. Like I think his dad actually tried to enlist for the American military, and they were like, no, like you could be a spy. And he's like, I've been living here for decades. Like, no, you're still a spy. We can't accept you. And then they ended up being forced into an internment camp. It's a very powerful story, and honestly, like I'm not much of a Trekkie, so if I went up to George Takei, I'd be like, I love your book, man.
I bet he would love that though. He seems like the guy who'd be like, you're the one I want to talk to. Like,
I'm sure like he gets thousands of Trekkie fans every day.
Exactly.
Right. I like to work on Third Rock from the Sun, being George Takei, who is from Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. He's fantastic. That's really cool though.
Yeah. So that's about his childhood, or is it?
Yeah, I think he was like only like 6 when that happened, but just like growing up with a child's perspective, and he got his parents' perspectives after the fact to help write this book, and it's a very powerful story, and I really enjoy it.
What's it called? What's the name of the graphic novel?
I think it's like We Were the Enemy, or They Saw Us as the Enemy.
Okay. Interesting.
It's a really good book.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to look at that one. Sounds very good. And he's amazing.
Right.
Oh, he's fantastic.
So Kobe, we met. How did we meet?
I think we met at
Is it?
a TCFF industry night,
Yes, that's right.
and
Uh,
I'm pretty sure you were wearing something that had Hangul on it, the Korean alphabet. And I was like, hey,
that
like,
wasn't me.
it wasn't.
No.
No, man.
I'm
Probably wearing
very,
like a warrior shirt or
yeah, probably,
vest
or a
or something.
hoodie. That's,
I remember us talking about being Korean and pretty much like the
yeah,
only Koreans at the night though.
yeah, yeah. I think,
Um,
yeah, TCFF, it wasn't industry night because I didn't make it for that, unfortunately, this year. I wanted to. It
I,
always sneaks up on me. I'm like, I'll be ready, and then it's the day before I'm ready. I was like, oh, it was yesterday.
yeah, but it was definitely like in that kind of lobby area though,
Yeah,
like the place where they hold that. And we were just us talking, and like I could tell because you're doing like VFX work and stuff. I think you're
yeah.
talking about like shooting some test footage and adding effects to that, and that
Hmm.
really interested me because there's not many sci-fi work and VFX heavy work going on here. And when they do, it's a very independent artist, usually going into their own budget.
Right,
Um, and that intrigued me right away. And I was like, hey man, if you need anyone to do a fight for you, anyone to do a flip for you, like I'm here. I got, I got you.
right. Yeah, yeah. A lot of test footage will. It's still. I mean, it's an ongoing thing because there's learning, relearning it for me because I learned in at the old AI Art Institute that used to be here in visual effects, but that was like Adobe CS2 days, so not really what you have nowadays, where you can do all sorts of things just automatically, more so with the same software company, I guess. But yeah. Anyways, for you, Kobe, we're gonna mainly talk about your acting and stunt work. How did you get started in all that?
So, I've been doing martial arts since I was like in seventh grade. I started with Japanese jiu-jitsu, which I did for a little bit over 3 years, which is a lot of like judo and grappling, but mix in with some traditional Okinawan karate. The dojo is like part of like a larger group that is actually based in Japan called Shoshin Ryu. Um, and I really liked it, and it's a very practical kind of martial art. Um, because like if say I was in a situation that, despite the fact that I haven't done Japanese jiu-jitsu in years, that's most of the curriculum I would base it on. Because after that, I did a little bit of MMA, but that was mainly just because I wanted to spar. Because I was young, I was like a teenager, and I just wanted to fight. And then the past couple of years, I've been doing Taekwondo, which is very flashy, very movie friendly, because this is where you learn how to jump up, spin 540 degrees, and then kick someone. Like that is you go to Taekwondo for movies. um, and so I was going to college for directing and writing at Augsburg University, and I graduated with a film production major and a creative writing minor. So in my mind, I was always going for I want to direct and write, and that is still the goal. But the more I found out about how they like film, like Jackie Chan films, John Wick, the behind the scenes stories of how they film these very stunt heavy movies, the more I realized like that is what I want to do. And so while directing and writing is still like an end goal, I decided to start going down the path of stunt performing. And the way that works is you stunt perform, then you maybe work up to a coordinator, and then you maybe work up to like a second unit director, which second units usually film the bulk of the action in most like blockbuster movies if you have the budget to have multiple crews going on. Um, and then eventually maybe a director like someone like Chad Stahelski, who was originally Keanu Reeves' stunt double before he started directing John Wick. Um, just yeah, I prefer starting at like out of all the ladders to make it to that point. The stunt ladder is one where if say I go my entire life without being a second unit director, if I was only a stunt coordinator my whole life, I'd be more than happy doing that.
Mhm. That sounds awesome. As you could probably assume, Alan and I are not, stunt heavy here. So
Never say
stunts
never.
have
You could always get it.
they've definitely really intrigued both of us. And so we're excited to talk about that. My first question though, you mentioned doing like the jump spin 540 degrees kicks. Have you done that
Um,
or anything close? Because that sounds awesome.
so yeah, yes and no.
Okay.
Because there's a level of learning where there's one thing to learn a move, and then there's another thing to learn how to be consistent with it.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone asked me to do a 540 kick for a movie, I like I would have to be like, give me a month or something. I gotta draw this out a lot.
Yeah.
I have landed 540 kicks. I cannot actively consistently do it. That is on my summer bucket list of things I need to get down. Like
Nice.
I want to be able to do a 540 kick by the end of August.
That's awesome. Um, you should definitely let us know when you do that. Like record it. We'll throw it up on the Instagram. That sounds awesome.
For
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
So what like knowing that, this is what you decided you want to actually like pursue right now. Can you tell us about your first film role? When did that happen and what did you actually do on set for that?
So my first short film role ever would have to be in my first college film, which is called Nightlife. And it's something I directed and wrote. Um, and it's about a serial killer chasing down a drug dealer. And because that puts the drug dealer in a situation where he can't just go to the cops because he has a bunch of drugs on him. And I was one of the drug customers. It's a short little whatever. But my first stunt role was for a feature film that had an open casting call, and it's called Your Unspoken Words, and it's still in post. So I
Mhm.
still haven't seen, like, I've seen a little rough footage here or there. Haven't seen how the film turned out, but basically I came in, they were just looking for, hey, do you want to be a fighter in a movie? And I brought one of my friends and we both got in. And then the director saw us and knew that we had martial arts background. I had already been doing parkour for about a year.
Mhm.
And I could do like stunt falls and stuff like that. And she actually ended up making us the left and right hand man of the main villain.
Oh, wow.
So, and because I ended up showing to up to a bunch of rehearsals, I started getting more lines. Like there's a part where she wanted there's a scene because it's kind of like a gang movie. The main character is a cop and he's going after this gang that are like trafficking children.
Mhm.
And then of course martial arts happen. Um, there's a scene where a like one of the the gang bases is raided by a SWAT team, and she was like, I really wish I could have someone with your skill set be available because I really want to see one of the gang members beat up two SWAT officers. And I was like, you could just have my character be there. And she's like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. And then I got like all these lines where I'm like, I guess one of the guys there is my lieutenant, and I'm like, you better make it to the deal or else it's your ass. Stuff like that. So that was like my first stunt role. And it's actually pretty cool because this is me and my friend, we finagled our way to having one of the fights we choreographed in the movie, because we were showing up to rehearsals and then like not being really needed. So we were like, let's choreograph our own fight just between the two of us. It could just be our character sparring.
Yeah.
And we did that. And then they saw it. And we were like, what do you think? And they're like, and that ended up being like one of the first scenes that they filmed. Because we're two gang enforcers and we're sparring. And then our
Mhm.
boss comes in and talks down to us. I mouth off and I get the wind knocked out of me. And it's kind of established the threat of the main villain. And it's
Mhm.
really cool that that was one of the first things that they filmed.
When was that?
That was like 2 years ago, like maybe a year and a half. It was a while back. That's when they filmed it. I think it was a year and a half ago because I think they didn't wrap until like October of 2022.
Mhm.
Wow, that was
So
your first role?
it was a long ongoing process. They were rehearsing for a very long time and trying to figure out locations forever.
Well,
They
right,
had a very
because
troubled
pandemic and everything.
pre-production.
Yeah.
So,
So and it didn't take up too much of my schedule because I was doing other projects in between then. But like that was like the
Nice.
very first role that we're like, you are gonna do stunts in our movie.
Hmm. What was your
wow.
favorite stunt that you got to do?
So Booze Hound is my senior project as I graduated. Is something I made last year. Um, my senior project was an homage to one of my favorite movies of all time, made by one of my favorite performers, Jackie Chan in Legend of the
Mm-hmm.
Drunken Master.
Yep.
So the plot of that film is I'm having an engagement party, um, and my fiance's jealous ex-lover shows up, and I have sworn off alcohol because I'm engaged. I'm a new man, but this guy starts being the crap out of me. So I am forced to drink a bunch of alcohol, get super wasted, and drunken master kung fu them. So that that entire experience was really fun. Being able to choreograph with the mindset of the drunken master
Mhm.
leads for um, awesome fight choreography, slapstick comedy, like some goofy, like drunken faced acting. There's a part where I'm punching at the camera and then the camera pans and the guy I'm fighting is just like watching me like what are you doing, and then I turn around and then like I spit out a bunch of alcohol and I run at him. um so it gets gross a little bit, but I think my favorite stunt was I made a breakaway table with my dad out of plywood, and there is a scene where I chug like a bottle of moonshine and I start going at him. I stop, I stagger back, and I fall through the table. And I think that's been my favorite scene. And also, it's cool because like my dad showed up to give us the table, and he stuck around and watched because he wanted to see me go through it.
That's
the
awesome.
So
the
that was a
pre-cut
fun.
table sort of thing, like they use
Yeah,
in
yeah, we
wrestling,
like,
pro wrestling.
yeah. So it was plywood, and we didn't cut all the way through it. We just kind of like
Yeah.
cut holes down a line, and
Mhm.
then so I didn't go through the top as I expected. I landed on it, and then it slowly fell to the side and
Oh,
cracked in half as I hit the ground.
Oh.
Um, and like people ask me like, was it scary to like be like laying down and like keep my composure as it's slowly going down? It wasn't scary to me. I had to keep myself from laughing because I was like, oh god, oh,
right.
okay, it's working. I wanted to giggle.
That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
because you have to like, yeah, those pre-cut tables, especially if it's, I don't know. I don't know what the science is behind that. Do you? I guess I didn't research it.
um
Oh,
I think in something like wrestling,
yeah.
sometimes they just straight make it out of like foam or something that'll break even if you don't cut it.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
But even if they don't, usually like because WWE, usually you're getting a lot of airtime, and I did not get that airtime. I just kind of
right.
like
Mhm.
leaned over and fell over.
Oh,
If
Yeah.
I
okay.
like
There wasn't any
went
momentum into
Right.
it that really.
yeah,
Okay.
if I
Other
like
than your body
fell down
weight.
from a ladder, I'm sure I would have broken the thing
Oh, yeah.
immediately.
Yeah.
But
If
I just
only.
I kind of tipped over more than anything.
Wouldn't that be
Well,
funny if there was a ladder there? No, anyways. Just
If we could incorporate a ladder into that
yeah,
short, we would.
somehow the ladder was there and they were both climbing up for some reason.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So that was your so how long I have a kind of a tangent here. So how long were you training before you got involved in stunts? Like how much time when you decided I'm going to start stunting and then this
It
film
was
obviously.
I would say it was always an interest of mine.
Mhm.
But like so I started martial arts in seventh grade. And it
Okay.
would be like 8 year, like 7 or 8 years. Until I started trying to do that in stunts. And also part of that was the parkour gym I went to is run by Chad Swadlow, who does a lot of parkour and flips and gymnastics, and he was a stunt performer in LA for a while.
oh.
And he has done some projects here. He is it's a very common thing to find people who love doing stunts but hate the set life of like hurry up and wait, um
Hmm.
and that sort of stuff. So that's not his main priority. Plus, I mean, he has a small business as a parkour gym owner, so
Mhm.
that takes up plenty of time.
All right. Interesting.
Um, but when I went there, he did a lot of movie stunt seminars where he would teach us how to do a high
Oh,
fall, how
Oh,
to plan fight choreography, how to do this. And that was very helpful. He also hooked me up with my first paid role, which was a guy down in Owatonna. He was looking for orc soldiers and parkour werewolves for his fantasy series.
all
So
right.
I got to do that. I can email you later some really cool pictures of me in like orc prosthetics.
Yes,
oh my
please.
god.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah,
I'm like, wait, parkour werewolf? Wait, what?
yeah. So we're chasing people down a forest, and we're
Uh-huh.
like vaulting over the logs, and like I think I
As you
do what's called
do.
an
Yeah.
underbar on a branch, where
Mm.
you grab it and then you swing under.
Yep.
Hmm.
Um, so it wasn't quite like we weren't doing like flips or gainers or anything like that, but
Okay.
we were still chasing someone with
Mhm.
proficiency, which is
Okay. So these are athletic werewolves. yeah.
Athletic orcs, I
Oh,
think.
orcs. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
it was both because I also did some fight scenes as an orc. I think I got killed like 3 or 4 times. they would
But
they would change my hair or the makeup to make me,
yeah.
and like
Oh,
the wardrobe to make me a different orc. I was a
nice.
goon, but I did a pretty sick scorpion, which is when someone who's standing up and they get hit downwards, but they hit the ground head first, so their legs go up.
Oh,
Um, Hitting an accidental scorpion is devastating. Hitting a
yeah.
purposeful scorpion after you stretched properly is looks really awesome, and it's not too
Oh.
bad.
It sounds
Um,
terrifying.
So it's like being tripped from behind, sort of, or
Kind of
from the
so
front.
usually typically, have you both seen Batman v Superman?
Hmm.
The warehouse scene where there's a guy leaning forward and Batman punches him and his face smacks the uh boards and his
Hmm.
feet fly up.
Mm.
That is a really good scorpion.
Okay.
Oh,
It's
okay.
usually from a downward force.
Oh,
Your
Yep.
head
okay.
goes down
Face
so
first.
hard your legs flip up.
Okay.
And the
Wow.
secret is when you're doing that as a stunt performer is you're trying to kick up to take weight off of the impact on your top half.
Hmm.
And you also spread your arms so your arms can take some impact, so you're not taking it with your head.
Right.
Yeah.
And then your legs can either flop behind you, or if you did it hard enough, they flop in front of you, and you have to kind of edge your head to the side and roll over it and land on your back. Um,
Ugh.
that's
Wow.
something you got to roll with the punches. You got to figure that out while you're doing it.
Hopefully not have
Wow.
to do too many takes.
I gotta be honest, it's not that bad if you stretch beforehand.
Yeah.
You do some like bridges because you're practicing your spine to go backwards.
Yeah.
Hmm.
If you take 10 minutes to stretch beforehand, it's not a problem. I've done it for a few times.
Huh. Interesting. Just thinking about that movement. Interesting.
Yeah. I feel like this right here ages me. Thinking about that movement makes my back hurt a little bit.
Oh yeah, there's sometimes I'll be watching like Hong Kong or even worse
Yeah.
Thailand films, where the stunt guys are willing to commit to some crazy stuff. And like I've got at this point I've developed a pretty good eye of whether something was done for real or with a wire pull or something.
Hmm.
And oh my god, like sometimes I watch things and I just like I know that was real. I know a real stunt performer went to the hospital that day.
Right.
Oh, sad. No kidding.
Yeah.
Aside from Jackie Chan, which we know is a favorite of yours, do you have other favorite actor slash stunt people that you like?
So yeah, I would say my two biggest influences are Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee, and those are, I
Mhm.
mean, they influence everyone basically. But I would
Yeah.
say, bring it back to Thailand. Tony Jaa, in my
Mm.
opinion, is the greatest stunt performer working now. He does some insane stunts that would even make Jackie Chan nervous, um, and like I love Jackie, but he is getting pretty old. Tony Jaa is still pretty darn agile.
Hmm.
And I would point if anyone is looking for what is, in my opinion, the best stunts in any movie,
Hmm.
Tony Jaa is the Protector.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
Plot wise, it's kind of like John Wick with an elephant. This dude is protecting an elephant, and then poachers kill him. And so he
Oh.
goes after the poachers. Um, but the stunts are just insane. And not even like, not all of it's even fight choreography. He'll do stuff like he'll backflip over a motorcycle, grab the guy's helmet, yank him off mid backflip. Just stuff that like you can't do that.
Yeah. Trying to like picture how that's even possible.
It it is insane.
Wow.
There was a part of the same scene. He's getting chased by a guy on a motorcycle, and he runs up a glass window, backflips off of it, and they have like an air cannon to break the glass. So they shatter it right after his foot leaves the glass, and the motorcycle goes through the glass, and he finishes his backflip. Like,
Wow.
I don't know how you do that and survive.
Yeah, that does sound pretty cool. I can understand that
Yeah,
being a favorite and him being a favorite.
yeah, he is absolutely insane, and he's done some American work. He recently did the Monster Hunter adaptation with Paul W.S. Anderson. I think he's in Fast and Furious 6 as kind of
Seven,
like
it looks like.
oh, 7.
Yeah.
As kind of like one of the head minions.
Oh.
And he also did a movie with another idol of mine, Scott Adkins. And actually, that movie was just packed with stunt performers because there's Michael Jai White as well, and Iko Uwais, the lead from The Raid 1 and 2. Tons of other guys.
He's in Raid
yeah.
1 and 2?
Iko Uwais.
Oh, okay.
Tony Jaa, not. But yeah, Tony Jaa and Scott Adkins, they were all in that, and he was fantastic in that. And I think that was like recent. That was like 2016 or 17. But yeah, he is a fantastic performer, and I hope I get to meet him one day.
Yeah, Monster Hunter is definitely on my watch list, but I want to see it in like 4K, like it's best possible, way to watch it.
Are you a Monster Hunter fan? That is a video game I've yet to step into.
No, I haven't even touched that yet. But I've heard good things about the movie too, so probably because of the game.
So you mentioned some movies that your favorites have been in. Would you say that those films have been the most inspiring for you, or do you have some that really stand out?
I would say so. Yeah. I know I've watched a lot of Hong Kong films. I love Donnie Yen. I own every single Bruce Lee movie. I've seen a lot of Jackie Chan. I am, if there was a protest to fight regionalized discs, I would be at the forefront because I keep trying to buy Hong Kong movies and it goes, no, it's region B, and I lose years off my life every time that happens. But I would say like the movies that first inspired me, this is gonna be a little bit embarrassing, but the two earliest martial arts influences I can think of is the Seth Rogen Green Hornet, which that's a little bit of a guilty pleasure for me. And then that's the thing that actually got me onto Bruce Lee, because I was like, wow, I love Green Hornet. And my dad was like, watch Bruce Lee. And I was like, oh, okay. And the original 90s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I will die on this hill. They have the best filmed action in American cinema because Golden Harvest produced it. So they had quality stunt performers. And because they're all in suits, all the guys in the suits are also stunt performers. The action is fantastic.
Yes.
Okay.
Like I watched some of them like a few weeks ago, and I was like, no, this holds up. Like the nostalgia glasses aside, the action is some of the best filmed I've ever seen in American standards.
Yeah,
I like it.
1 and 2 are my favorites, definitely. Of the
Oh, I haven't even seen the third one. I was just talking about the 2.
Return of the Ooze, the Super Shredder.
Oh, Secret of the Ooze. That, like, me and my brother literally had a VHS of that, and we would watch that on repeat.
Same.
Iconic. Go Ninja, go Ninja, go.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That makes me happy. So what's been your favorite thing about like your process, whether it's as, from the actor perspective or from the stunt perspective, or I suppose, that even merged since they're really one and the same for you in a lot of circumstances.
Yeah. I would say I gotta say it, stunt performing is acting. That is
Hmm.
something a lot of stunt performers will die on that hill as well.
Hmm.
Um, and I really think my favorite part of acting specifically is, I think, physical choices. I would say I've only coordinated it a few times, um, but I was shocked that some actors don't like are so focused on their face and voice. Sometimes they forget what they're doing with their body.
Hmm.
I remember a project I recently coordinated. Someone got hit in the head with a bottle, and he fights someone off and stumbles away. Like that's what the story was being presented. And then he did it. And then he just gets up and walks normally to the stairs. And I remember being like, I kind of coached him how to like make like a slightly concussed stumble.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And that was just something I was like, oh, I didn't realize that like people aren't don't sometimes think about that.
Yeah.
And I would say my favorite part of stunt performing, I would say, is the previs phase, which is short for pre-visualization, which for an acting or an action standpoint, what a previs typically is say the director says, we need this fight scene, these characters, these people win, these people lose. The coordinator, the fight coordinator, the stunt coordinator, stunt guys, they usually film a fight scene in whatever training gym they have available with like props and whatever made out of cardboard or like maybe cardboard boxes for a wall if someone needs to smash through it. Um, that point is as a stunt performer where you have the most creative freedom and feedback, and sometimes like editing wise that turns out better than the main shoot. I think every single stunt performer can attest to making a really cool fight, really cool choreography, and you have like a whole plan and everything, and then it either gets chopped up by the edit or like we run out of time on the day.
Hmm.
Hmm.
um and I know plenty stunt performers sometimes for their reels use the previs footage because sometimes it'll just look better than
Nice.
the final product. And um and I would say there's even a level of like I find them funny sometimes. Like for example, Shang-Chi, which is also one of the best examples of how to film action in the American cinema. Uh, the during the more VFX heavy shots, where like Shang-Chi is like floating in the sky using the rings against his dad.
Hmm.
Slight spoiler alert, but it's a fantastic movie. Uh, during the previses, they were using a Captain America and Stan Lee action figures for the part where they're like floating around in the sky and doing certain poses and
That's
having the
awesome.
rings float around them. So just like that level of like you basically make a tiny little indie short film where you're just like just pretend this is a wall, pretend this is a whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just love that like pure quality of like this is what it's meant to be, and then you see it in the finished product.
Hmm.
um I like watching both. A lot of movies that I really like the action, I will find the previses by either sometimes it'll be in the extras of the
Hmm.
Blu-ray, or sometimes I'll look up the stunt performers and they'll post it on their Instagram of like this is our previs. And I highly recommend if anyone wants to get into stunts, do that and see how the stunt performers do it,
Hmm.
and then compare that to how it turned out in the final product. Sometimes better, sometimes it's worse, sometimes about the same, but it is always different.
Hmm.
Yeah. Sometimes I see films with stunts, much like, uh, well, like in general, and I see so many cuts, and it's just like the fight is being like, I don't know, produced a certain way. I guess I don't know what happens unless you look at like behind the scenes things, if you can get to them.
Yeah, typically it's either I don't know who makes these the decision, but usually it's a desire. They want to have the actor's face being shown.
Right.
So usually it's like a clip of the stunt performers going at it, then a close up of the actor's face like reacting and going
Yep.
ah, and then it cuts to the watch it. But By definition,
Ah,
if the action's a wide shot and the close up is their face, you're with the cuts, you're imitating the camera going back and
Yeah.
forth. Like it can be jarring and be really hard to follow the action.
Hmm.
but if
And
they're not performing them, they want you to believe they're in that fight. So that's
yeah,
kind of, I get that
Hmm.
logic, I suppose.
yeah. I mean, it can be tricky, and that is a, sometimes a difficult choice to make. Um, I think the even like shows like The Mandalorian where you can just have someone wear a mask,
Hmm.
like boom. Like I remember watching the first episode of Book of Boba Fett, and there was a parkour chase in like the first episode. I was like, wow, this is really good. And then Boba Fett takes off his helmet, and then it starts like editing weird. I'm like, oh man, there it goes.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily like I'm not saying that fight is bad,
Hmm.
but like there is a difference of quality
Yeah.
that is very noticeable if you are constantly thinking about stunts like my brain is
Yeah.
or
Hmm.
like I'm sure an editor would notice that as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Basically like industry people would notice
Yeah.
that. I'm not
Which
sure
makes
everyday
sense.
people do.
I tend to try to turn off that lens when watching a movie because I want to enjoy a movie first, and then I can get into it if I need to, or if I have the desire to. If it's like really grabs me for some
Mhm.
reason, you know it when it does, right?
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, does it sell enough, or do you even want to see this movie again, or
Mhm.
that sort of thing.
It can be
I
tough
mean,
though.
if you can shut off the filmmaker brain, you're doing better than most of
Yeah.
us.
I
Some people
try because
can't.
I want to enjoy it still, because that's why I got into it, because I enjoy movies.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Yeah,
remember why.
that can be a very difficult relationship. Is making the art that you love can
Mhm.
Mm,
sometimes ruin the taste.
yeah. Yeah. So, speaking of which, are there certain roles within filmmaking that intrigue you beyond stunting, acting, and all that?
Um, yeah, like I was saying a little bit before we started recording, I find the world of Foley art like super interesting. As you see, I have this VO set up. I did a little bit of voice acting over the pandemic. And I do really enjoy voice acting,
Hmm.
as well. And but for like something like Booze Hound, where I didn't have like good quality sound effects from martial arts scenes, so I started foleying it myself and looking up how people did it. Some of the effects are not good, some of them that can be a very
Hmm.
frustrating process. But I definitely feel if I didn't go down the realm of stunts, foley art would definitely be something I'd try pursuing. Um, but like this is kind of stunt adjacent, but it's been a huge dream of mine to end up mocapping, like doing motion capture for 3D
Mm.
Oh.
animations. That's always been something I've really wanted to do. I love the like world of animation in general, whether it's 2D or 3D, but motion capture, like that's to me, I see that as a way to do stunts in an air conditioned room,
Mm.
in a very safe environment,
Yeah.
not chasing daylight.
uh,
Um, but also like there's a kind of a sad reality of the stunt industry where if you get old, your two choices are become a coordinator or retire.
Hmm.
And I hope and I imagine if like there's a motion capture studio that would allow older stunt performers to keep performing in a better environment that suits them. And that would be another end goal of mine is I would love to own a motion capture studio. Um, and even if I'm not like directing feature films, like maybe if I could just write a show and then do animated fight choreography with motion capture,
Hmm.
um, that to me would be a dream as well.
yeah.
That's,
Well, okay.
I would say that sounds awesome. I love how you kind of see that like view of how they can tie so well together. Um, you just have so much, uh, like such a good idea of really the things that you want to do and the process to get there and all of those things. Which is I don't think a lot of people have that. Um, and so it's really inspiring.
I'm attention deficit, so it took me a long time to figure out what exactly I wanted to do.
Understand. So knowing that you've done some. but have so many other things you want to do and progress into, throughout your whole life. Have you, progressed to this point as you've maybe expected, or, and I mean, part of that is obviously that you went from wanting to direct and write to this, but I mean, have you gotten to a point where you expected to, or are you just on the right track, do you think, now that you have all this laid out so well?
Uh, it's like yes and no, kind of.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone comes up with a plan of like what they want to do with the rest of their life, and it
Mhm.
changes so much.
Mm.
No one ever turns out exactly how they wanted to.
Mhm.
But I would say like the broader expectations of what I had, I would say I feel like it's progressed very nicely. Everyone in the industry or not, they're telling me like networking is 90% of it. It's who you know, not what you know, et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera. Um, and like I understood it when they said it, but then once I started going into the industry, I'm like, okay, like yeah, that's 100% right.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like a few days ago, I was at Z Fest, the award ceremony. Um, and I think it's just the level of people who are coming up to me and being like, "Hey, I saw you do this fight scene. I saw you do this. Congratulations on the dumpling, which was nominated for 9 awards. Won best
Wow.
anthropomorphic character for the little dumplings that were trying to kill me." Um, the and I had my girlfriend with me, who was like, "Oh my God, it's crazy how many people recognize you." But from my perspective, I'm like, I met that person a year and a half ago, and then I
Hmm.
like spent months trying to get on set with them, and it finally happened like 5 months ago, and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's just you people who, from an outside perspective, see the end result where people
Hmm.
go, um, don't know how much steps it took to get there.
Nope.
And I feel like, when you're like 19, you have no way of knowing that. And I'm only 23, but like I've built it up, and I feel like I'm have these connections throughout the Minnesotan film industry.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like finally, I feel like these roots have taken shape.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and it's a wonderful experience.
Yeah. I think, yeah, progressing in Minnesota, you'll notice there's a lot of seasonal changeovers at points. Like some people stick with it, some don't, some move to other places
Hmm.
and want to go bigger, So it's a lot. And now things are changing with the tax incentives. So it's
Mhm.
um, like after what, like 30 years of no tax
Wow.
incentive, it's like,
Yeah.
here's a little bit for you. That
Yeah.
multi-billion dollar, industry will give a little bit towards that. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
We,
something.
we just go to theaters
Yeah.
every weekend. I mean, it's not worth that much, right?
It's not that far off from what Atlanta had when The Walking Dead just started.
Mhm.
Hmm.
They upped that incentive a lot since it took off as like the
Right.
most popular show on television for a while.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So you never know. This could just
Hmm.
be the beginning as it becomes more and more of a thing.
We need our Walking Dead. Kobe, what do you think? What is it? Is what's next if it's not zombies? I mean,
Parkour werewolves.
Right? I was gonna say orcs and
yes.
werewolves. Like, come on.
I do have experience in that department. Yeah.
Yeah, what was that? Mankato? Someone's got something going?
Yeah, it's down in Owatonna.
Owatonna, that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
So is there something you really want to do now more than ever? I mean, is it like, do you really want to do a musical fight scene, or is it a sci-fi thriller? I mean, what is the type of film you really want to get?
I would say,
Fan film?
well, that dream has already come true, Alan.
Well, it's we're getting there,
It's a dream in progress. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. We're
But
not in the
I would
can yet.
say, to me, like the biggest role I really want, I would love to have a role where I get stunt work and also a chance to act. I would say in the past couple of years where I've been advertising myself, hey, I do stunts, I can do fights, I can do flips. Um, some people like assume I can't act and make me like a bad guy, do a fight scene, and then I die, sometimes in a spectacular fashion. Um, and yeah, like I said before, stunt performing is acting.
Hmm.
And some performers will say I can't act, but I feel like all of them should get a chance to at least try. And that's how you get like Jackie Chan's and Bruce Lee's and Jet Li's and Donnie Yen's, is because they're allowed to act. And I would say like if people haven't seen Jackie Chan's Hong Kong work, he can do drama so well. He will full on cry in very dramatic scenes that you don't see in typical actiony masculine um, films. And I would say like this is something I wish the entire industry would do. Just let stunt performers act. If they say they can act, give them a shot.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's totally understandable.
Yeah, and not all actors can stunt, so
That's for
it's
sure.
Squares and rectangles, man.
yeah.
So,
But
Kobe, what's next for you?
So what's next? I am making what I call the film grimmage. I am planning a move to Atlanta. I
ooh,
have made some very solid connections with some very good stunt people. On that Orc and Werewolf set, I met a guy named Jordan Scott, who has been Zac Efron's stunt double in multiple movies. He's worked on DC
Wow.
projects and Marvel projects. He invited me to a stunt networking event. He's just like, hey, you can stay at my house for a weekend, talk to some stunt people. I met Chris Romwell, who doubles Chris Pratt. Chris Brewster, who did the stunts for Daredevil and is now kind of moving on to his second unit directing slash full director stage of his
oh,
Wow.
career. Um, and a few days ago, my uncle, who like kind of an extended uncle, who lives down in Atlanta, was like, hey, I met this guy named James Logan. He says he's a stunt guy. Here's his number. So connections are happening. I'm definitely gonna see how it goes.
Mhm.
Um, I all my family's up here, so I'll still be visiting Minnesota regularly. If people need projects that need doing, if it fits in my schedule, I'll be more than happy to help out. Um, we'll
wow,
see how it goes.
yeah. Talked to also Josh Stifter, who was on the podcast not too long ago. He moved down there also, so definitely
Mhm.
look him up.
Awesome.
He's also a filmmaker um, from Minnesota. So, wow. Good luck, Atlanta. Are you headed to or
Atlanta, yeah.
okay?
It's always between LA and Atlanta.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And to me, it was like
Or New
whichever one I
York.
get connections for first. And
Yeah,
then we got a bunch of connections in Atlanta now. So,
which is awesome.
and yeah, and I back in February, I spent a whole week in there, just like checking out the sites. I visited Jordan while I was there, looked at apartments. Um, you really can't sneeze without getting some phlegm on a film production. It is constant.
I bet.
Yeah.
I was looking at an apartment, and then she's like, and the lady showing me was like, and here's this window over here. You get a nice view of the street. Oh, they're blocking off the street for another film production. Anyway, and then just like it was nothing to him. And
Yeah.
Wow.
I went to Centennial Park just because I heard it was pretty. I had a free morning, wanted to go for a nice stroll, and it was closed down. And I was like, asked one of the security guards, hey, what's up? What's going on here? And he's like, I can't tell you. They're filming a movie in here. I'm like, okay. So I go to the next guard and I go, hey, I heard they're filming a movie in here. What do you know what it is? And he's like, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but it's Megalopolis, Francis Ford Coppola's next movie.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, what are they doing? And he's like, they're prepping for a shoot, but they're actually shooting tomorrow. So I went to a Walmart, and the next day I bought a pack of water bottles, and I just put that on my shoulder, and I just walked on the set, and I just pretended to be a I pretended to be a PA for 3 hours. I just
What?
I just want to watch him work. I
Oh
just
my
found a
God.
dark corner to hide in. I picked up
That
That's
is,
trash.
amazing.
I
yes.
was like, ask people, do you need anything from Crafties? Can I get you a? Because they use, for some reason, I think for biodegradable reasons, they use box water instead of bottles
Mm.
now.
Hmm.
I
Right.
was giving those out to people. I was helping people lift stuff if it looked heavy, if I saw someone struggling. Yeah, and I just watched them work.
That's amazing.
What a
Oh my
great
gosh.
story.
Right?
Just
Like you're
Francis
gonna
Ford
be
Coppola's. So I'm just gonna, scoot in there.
Yeah. I was trying to find because there was two stunt coordinators,
Mhm.
according to IMDb, and I couldn't find any of. I heard one of them was on set, but I could not find them for the life of me.
Hmm.
I started getting like questioning glances. I was like, oh, I'm just trying to get out of here. I've been busted. I got
That's so
out.
Hardcore
amazing.
away.
Exactly.
Right.
Show off your
That's how,
moves.
yeah, they ask you and they're like, wait a second, you come back
So
because our other store guy or stunt guy didn't show up. So you could,
do a flip over a fence and be
right?
like,
Yeah,
I left my
yeah.
business card there too. If you want me to do this.
It's like an episode of The Simpsons or something. I forget who did that. Someone did something weird like that. Anyways,
Yeah, there's just so many productions going on. I'm pretty sure they film more stuff than LA at this point, just
yeah.
because Texas is that good, and it's like a fourth as expensive to live there versus
Hmm.
LA.
Yep. Most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Living, just renting even is
Mhm.
in the space you get is better, probably better than here even. So,
I was kind of comparing the prices. It's like 10% more expensive to live in Atlanta.
oh, is
So
it?
that's
So it
definitely
probably went
like
up
after
since
the
the last time I
industry
checked.
moved in,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like I said, I have an uncle who lives down there, and I was like, "How long have you lived here?" And they're like, "Oh, since like '87." I was like, "So like you were here when like all this industry moved in. Like, does it feel weird seeing like the city that you've lived in forever like completely change in about a decade?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's like, entirely different from how it used to be." Like they kind of live in the suburbs, and
Hmm.
Hmm.
that hasn't changed too much. But like entire neighborhoods look completely different. And I was looking at some really cheap apartments that are definitely like in a neighborhood that's like early stages of gentrification because like there'll be like a boarded up house, a demolished house, a burnt down house, and then a nice new furnished townhouse with 5 rooms for rent. Like
Oh my
And
gosh.
it's like it's a little fishy. But I mean they were offering some really low prices, so that might be where
Yeah.
I live for a bit.
right.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, where can people find you, find your work, support what you're doing, all that stuff?
Yeah. Mainly my Instagram, Kobe Markworth. Just my name. No caps, no dots, no spaces because no one else is named Kobe Markworth. That's where I post like mainly my stunt stuff. Like I have a Facebook that's mostly personal. But yeah, Instagram is where I post progress videos. I post like when I won an award at Z Fest, I post about that. Sometimes I post like progressions of like how like me getting a side flip, how that took about a year before it got to like I was able to do it on the ground.
Mhm.
Um, just like stuff like that and cool stuff I can do. I was swinging around a 3-section staff, which is an incredibly hard martial arts weapon to learn. Um, yeah, if you want to see me do stunts, that's the place where I'm at.
Yeah. And before we let you go, before we get to the last question, I just wanted to ask, like, about the dumpling, your experience with Scream It Off Screen and Z Fest. Tell us a little bit about that first.
So yeah, so my friend Tristan Crawford, who is just graduated from MCAD,
Hmm.
and he actually is the one who directed Booze Hound. I asked him to direct it because I was the lead and the coordinator and the choreographer and the producer and
Mhm.
so he entered Scream It Off with a video called "Can Our Love Last," and it was about a woman who falls in love with a can. Just a goofy little heartfelt comedy. Um, and he did some effects where he was dangling something by a wire and he wiped it in post. And I was like, "What do you think about me fighting a bunch of dumplings that attack me Army of Darkness style?" Where it becomes a slapstick comedy. So he was like, "Let's do it." So this is something we kind of made for Scream It Off in particular
Mhm.
because they
Oh,
love like kind of weird films,
Yeah.
comedies,
Hmm.
stuff that like you remember, whether for good reasons or for bad. There was a year where a short where it was just a guy eating a cheeseburger for like five uninterrupted minutes. That won a Scream It Off.
Oh my
What?
gosh.
They just love weird stuff.
Yeah.
So I
Hmm.
was like, this would be perfect for him. So we filmed it. I like Tristan wrote a script. I kind of storyboarded some action pieces. Like I storyboarded a part where I'm wearing a bathrobe because my character was recently dumped and he's very depressed and he's got stains all over his shirt and et cetera, et cetera. I yank back my bathrobe and there's a pair of chopsticks in my sweatpants and I pull it out like a samurai sword and I slice a dumpling in half. And that got the biggest cheer from the Scream It Off audiences. Like they cheered
Oh.
so loud. There were some like audio flaws that I like we couldn't get rid of that they
Mhm.
drowned out because of how hard they
Oh,
were cheering.
awesome.
Um, and yeah, and
Wow.
so that performed really well at Scream It Off.
Wow.
And then Z Fest, it performed very well. They were more a traditional audience, so they're not yelling gong or let it play.
Yeah.
But they like the first like stunt I do is I slip on a bottle of soy sauce and I take a big pratfall and I get like 3 feet of airtime. And I make a big smack on the ground. I just remember
Mhm.
everyone going, "Ooh!" I'm like, "That's what I'm talking about."
Yeah.
So that did pretty well. It got nominated for 9 nominations.
Mhm.
Best hero, best actor, best fight scene, best villain, best prop, best anthropomorphic character, best student film, and best audio. I
Wow.
think that's correct. I think I'm missing one, but we got nominated for that. We went to the award show. We won best anthropomorphic character. Um, as well as 2 other shorts that I did stunts for, Ghillie Suit and MacGuffin. Ghillie Suit got
Mhm.
6th place, and MacGuffin won Best of Fest, and also
Oh.
kind of swept the awards. That also won Best Fight Scene, and in that, I am a goon, but like I'm wearing a Bruce Lee jumpsuit, and I drop kick the main character and do a kip up, which is where you like, kick yourself up
Oh, yep.
from
Mm.
laying down to standing position. Yeah, it was a lovely night, and I saw so many people I know, I've worked with. A lot of people recognized me. I remember even at just the Z Fest screening before the awards, I went to the bathroom and someone at the urinal was like, "You're that ninja guy from MacGuffin." And I was like, "Yeah."
I have a name, but yes.
It wasn't
That's
said in the
awesome.
short, so you know, it was,
Right.
Yeah.
That's so cool
You
though.
made it that guy status, right? The
Yeah.
that guy
I am
status.
very happy to stay at that
And there are some
guy.
pretty awesome guys that are that guy.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty cool thing.
I gotta be the coolest that guy. That's the real career
Absolutely.
goal right there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Your next urinal talk.
Out of all the guys I almost recognize, you're my favorite.
Yes. Amazing. All right. So, Kobe, we have one last question for you. It is the big one. So, what do you want people to remember most about you? Whether it's working with you, watching your work, anything.
I would say what I want people to remember the most about me is that I just want to provide a fun time, whether it's working with me. I would like to be on set. I'm usually known as the guy who always makes like dad jokes on set, but also just knows how to have a fun time. On MacGuffin, there was a point where we all broke out into Backstreet Boys singing as we were waiting for the next shot to be made. Ain't nothing but a hard place. Tell me why. Um, and then,
That's amazing.
but also watching, I'm not opposed to hard drama, but like comedy, like an action comedy, like in the vein of Jackie Chan, something like that. Whether I'm performing it myself or directing someone else to do that,
Hmm.
like that is the kind of area of expertise I want to be in.
Hmm.
I just want to provide a good time.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you again so much for taking time out of your night and chatting with us. It's been really fun getting to know you and learn all about stunts and what you your plans are and coming up. So definitely keep us posted, and we'll have to have you on again.
Of course. Thank you so much. I appreciate the invite. And hey, in a few years, if you see me getting beat up by Chris Hemsworth and something, I'd be happy to come back on the podcast and talk about it.
I love
Great.
it.
I love it.
Sounds awesome.
Join our Film Beyond Minnesota.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And to our listeners, this has been Film in Minnesota.